You knew Reg, and obviously Angela painted a lot of images of the destruction of humans, roadkill.
Yeah.
What do you think of their sacrifice and the artists and the community of artists that they represented? What do you think is the role, and what do you think is the loss?
Well, I think the poet Judith Wright got it right. She said we have to sacrifice that European mind, you see. Now that's very hard, because only a couple of generations ago, most of us who aren't Aboriginal were actually from Europe. It's very hard to sacrifice something if it's in your blood, if it's in your heritage. But I do think that if you look at a lot of Australian art and a lot of Australian cinema and a lot of Australian literature, it's actually all about sacrifice. You know, I mean, Patrick White's Voss, he goes off into the desert and gets killed by the land. Burke and Wills go off to conquer the land, but in fact the land conquers them. Picnic at Hanging Rock, one of our great movies, you know, is about people being sacrificed by a big volcanic rock just outside of Melbourne. The whole Azaria Chamberlain story was about sacrifice and this sort of strange, tragic story of a young baby being devoured by a wild dog. There's a lot of sacrificial mythology, if you like, in the Australian culture and in Australian art in particular. And I think it will continue, because until we actually develop a mind, a consciousness, a soul, or a psyche that can actually understand the land and get close to the land, the only choice we have is to accept that there is this vicious tendency towards sacrifice, which is part of the Australian experience.
In a sense, Malcolm Fraser's quote that summed up the 70s recession was, "Life wasn't meant to be easy," which is a part of a quote from the George Bernard Shaw. Life isn't meant to be easy by a child, but take courage, it can be delightful. It seems that that's the other bit. It's the taking care and the love. What's the importance of love, and what are the rewards of this new spirituality? What are the rewards that we're going to have to think of to replace the loss and suffering?
See, we came here and basically stole the land. You know, the British used the term terra nullius. It was an empty land. The High Courts of Australia found that that was actually illegal. Indeed, the whole settlement of Australia was illegal. We haven't even dealt with that at the moral level yet. So what we need to do is to start feeling authentic here. Now that requires, the advantages of a spirituality is that we just don't feel that we're in exile, you know, that we're way, way away, 12,000 miles away from England or London. Or the advantage of a spirituality is that we can feel at home. This is our home. But a lot of us don't feel that, not even after generations of living here. See, if you steal land but haven't actually made a moral or spiritual relationship with place, it's not home. It's just real estate. It's just a foreign place that you're living in. And even though you live here, you haven't got your roots here until you can feel the spiritual bond. So the advantage of an Australian spirituality is to make us feel at home where we live. And a lot of us haven't got that there yet. And I think New Zealand are ahead of us because they've made a much better pact with Maori culture than we have made with Aboriginal culture. The gap between white Australians and Aboriginal culture is so vast that no fast motorbike rider could negotiate it. He'd fall down into it. That gap has to be bridged, and that can only be done, I think, through spirituality. I don't think it can be done by money or by economics or by good policies or by governments, agencies and institutions. It can only be done by a spiritual connection with place, which also is a spiritual connection with Aboriginal people as well. That's the only way we can really feel at home, and until we get to that point, we will be made to sacrifice things, including our lives, because we're not really here.
Do you think there's a way that by reframing economics and thinking more about the social, the economic, the environmental and the cultural values that are essential for a future, that we can learn in a new way?
We can learn in a new way, and we can fine-tune, in a sense, what's already here. But I think the real revolution has to be a spiritual one. We can fine-tune things and get, make science better adapted to the environment and more ecologically alert. But all that is just secondary. The primary thing is the connection, the human lived connection with place and land. If you like, the sense of attunement with the country, or Aboriginal people just call it country and use it, that term, country. We need a better relationship with country, and all our science and ecological policies and that is good fine-tuning, but it's not enough.